Good evening, ma'am.
Hello. Good evening,
Thank
Hari.
you. Thank you so much for accepting to be with us in this Expert Talks with Hari. This is a 60-minute show with three segments. First segment is all about you, your childhood, your teenage, and till now, the- and the lessons learned during the journey. Second segment focuses on theatre and more. We'll focus on different initiatives by Little Theatre and other areas. Third segment is the surprise segment, which I'll explain when we get there. Now we'll start with who is Mrs. Aysha Rau? Over to you, ma'am.
Yeah, that's a very difficult question because even I don't know who I am. And I've been on planet Earth for such a long time. I must admit that I kind of forget what happened in my childhood, teenage, in the 20s, So, well, to begin with, I was born to a Bengali mother and a Malayali father. And I was born in Trivandrum, kind of
Okay.
very long ago. I'm turning 64 this year, so it was an awful long time ago.
Okay.
Uh, but by the time I was 4 years old, my father joined the United Nations and we left the country for his first assignment, which was in Kenya. So that was really fascinating because I did my kindergarten, first, second, and third standard in Kenya. And we learned Swahili in school, and we were actually very, we meaning I had three siblings, an older brother, older sister, and a younger brother. And we were pretty fluent in Swahili, but now all I remember is that bata means duck. And dudu is an insect. So, there's not much of fluency left in the Swahili. Though the first language I ever learned was Malayalam. So I have that language is very much in my brain. And I always understand anyone who speaks in Malayalam, anyone who speaks in Bengali. And because I spent about 6 years in Panchgani in a boarding school, I have a smattering of Marathi and a little bit of Hindi, though they call me guru of the class because I used to get amazing marks in Hindi, anything between 0 to 15%. So, so that was it. So I was the guru of the class for Hindi. So while I'd get 100 on 100 for maths, I was quite regular with a 0, 1, 2, or 3% in Hindi. So I remember one exam I actually studied really hard and I got 75% in Hindi, which even shocked me. And I came first in class, and then I thought it was just too much trouble to have to sit and, rote learn all these Hindi sentences, and I reverted back to my 1 to 15%. So my parents were very kind. We'd go home to, by then, my dad was posted in Somalia. So I had actually spent a couple of years in an American school in Mogadishu before I joined the boarding school in Panchgani, Kimmins High School. And my younger brother and I, we were getting a little out of hand, is what my parents said, because we were in this completely American kind of education where everything was whatever. But it was great fun. We really had a great time. And then they decided that before we became completely, out of control, they sent us off to boarding school. And that's how I came to Panchgani. And in Somalia, we learned a little bit of Italian. Again, as with all languages, unless you use it, you never really, remember it. And then from Panchgani, I spent 6 years there. It was wonderful experience. It was very strict. No one knew who was rich and who was poor. The fact is that everyone was extremely wealthy because it was a very, very, elite kind of a situation. But we were not allowed to wear any amount of jewelry. We were allowed to only wear those little round gold rings and one wristwatch, max. And we were allowed 2 rupees a week for tuck shop. So no one really could show off. When our uniform, we called it like an orphan Annie dress, the uniform, because it was blue checked and red checked, depending on whether it was the daily uniform was blue checked dresses. And when we went out special, it was a red checked dress with a blazer and tie and stuff like that. But that was a great place to be grounded, because you couldn't, you didn't show off. And that's where I made some amazing friendships, and we had hardly, in my class, there were only 13 of us. 6 of us did science and 7 did arts. So practically every class was like a tutorial. So it was quite an amazing place where we were introduced to music, dance, theater, sports, everything. So it was a great training ground for young ladies. And then from there, I went off to do A levels in London. Uh, I did some O levels and A levels in Sydenham High over there, which is a girls' public school. And that's one of those private schools. And after finishing at that school, I went on to Portsmouth, which is now the University of Portsmouth, where I studied marine and microbiology.
Okay.
And I was very clear I wanted to come back to India, because I had never really lived to think about it in India. And I was ardently Indian and very loyal and patriotically Indian. And I, wanted to find out for myself what India was. So I was very clear I wanted to come back to India, even though there were a lot of my friends' parents who were saying, oh, why can't we find a nice English boy for Aysha to marry? So I said, oh, Aysha's not looking for an English boy. She's planning to go back to India. So that was it. I came back to India. And I think I was probably in 1980 one of the only marine microbiologists. And I had a lot of offers for jobs in fish farms, especially in Ernakulam, Cochin. They had just started it at around that time. And there weren't, and my specialization was actually fish diseases.
Okay.
That's what I had actually specialized in. And I was going off to do a PhD in fish diseases, but then I decided, I had lived off my parents long enough and I wanted to start work. So I came back to India and I ended up in Calcutta. That's where my sister was living with her husband and 2 little kids. And they said, oh, you would be just perfect for advertising. I said, advertising? What's advertising? I hadn't even looked at ads in the newspaper. I'd be the first one to leave, the sitting room when commercials came on television. So then said, advertise. So they invited a friend of theirs and who spent the whole evening saying why women should not be in advertising. So I said, right, I need to join this. So I did a copy test for O&M in Calcutta and I was offered a job. And that's how it all began. I worked in Calcutta for 2 years. And then joined HTA at that time. It was called HTA, became JWT. It's now called something else now. And I got transferred to Madras. And that's how I came to Madras. And I didn't know a soul. And I stayed at the Taj Hotel. What is it called?
Connemara, is it?
Yeah, Connemara for 2 months, because HTA was just down the bridge from Connemara. And so they put me up there for 2 months until I found an apartment. And I've never left Madras, which changed to Chennai. And I'm still here 38 years later. I guess that, in a nutshell, is the story of my life.
Okay. Thank you. How did microbiology and fisheries BSc degree holder from Portsmouth found, how did this person from microbiology and fisheries ended up, Little Theatre in 1991 was founded. How did this transition happen?
Yeah, it's called Fish Out of Water. I grew up learning to play the piano and the guitar and singing, and we have a lot of art in our family. So I learned to play Western classical music on the piano. Now, of course, I have forgotten everything. I used to play up to the 8th grade. Now, I think my fingers don't even know how to go over the piano scales because I haven't played in so many years. I used to play the guitar and we used to sing a lot. And I used to have a lot of dance classes and, and I used to be regularly part of the theater in dramatics and so on. And I loved the theater. So, and I was actually good at writing. So I used to come first in class for all my English classes and literature. I love to read. So I think I was kind of equally balanced in the arts and sciences. So I think I just went into the sciences because at one point I thought I wanted to become a doctor. And I'm glad I didn't, because I have a daughter who's a doctor, and I looked at all her books and I said, oh, I don't think I could have ever gone through all those books. It was, and I think God had a plan that I should come to Madras and, plague Aysha Rau's life. So I came here and we got married.
Okay.
So
Okay.
that's how we are here.
In this journey, are there any key lessons which you'd like to share? There have been certain hurdles or some challenges.
Yeah, it's like I used to always come in the first three positions in class, even in Kimmins.
Hmm.
And I had actually got into pre-med in Purdue University. Okay. And I got into, what's it, medical school, the one in, see, I've told you I've become so old I can't even remember. I got into medical school in India, but just before my 11th standard exams, I fell ill. I fell very, very badly ill, and I couldn't, and I was so ill, I was hospitalized. And then they put me on like 15 tablets a day. So by the time 6 in the evening, I used to feel so sleepy, I used to go to sleep. So I wasn't really able to study that hard and get the marks I was supposed to have got in my 11th, the ISC, it was the senior Cambridge exam. So I didn't automatically get into the medical school I was supposed to get into. Then when I had the marks, that was when I was studying in London, I got the marks, but I never got the admission into medical school. And so I got into a course which I found very interesting, because I really enjoyed marine biology, and I loved the sea, and I loved to go sailing, and I loved, and I like biology. So that kind of worked for me. So I said, okay, let's apply for this course. So I think what I have learned is that you might decide for yourself you want to do a lot of things, but maybe you're not meant to do that. I was supposed to finally come back to India, which I wanted to anyway, and not stay on in Calcutta, but come to Madras, which I did. And then I guess I was supposed to start the Little Theatre, which has made such an impact on a lot of children's lives in this city particularly. And so that's it. I have actually no regrets, because I never thought that, you know, you could, looking back, you could think that you could get into a deep depression because you never got to do what you wanted to do, what you thought you wanted to do. Because when you look back, there were a lot of opportunities, and finally, it's just a question of what you do with the opportunities that present themselves to you, and you make the best of that. So
Best of that.
that's it.
Thank you.
And have
Thank
no
you. Now
regret.
we'll move on. Okay. We'll move on to the second segment, Little Theatre. And before opening the Little Theatre, about the International Alliance for Women, the global ambassador part, can you explain a little bit on that?
It's because of the Little Theatre I was doing all this
Okay.
outreach work. And that was in 2013 that I was awarded this international award. That is for 100 people from across the whole world were given to people who were making a difference. So they decided that year, 4 people from India got the award. I was the only one from South India. So it was not something I was looking for. My name somehow got recommended and I got selected.
About this Little Theatre. Okay.
So it's all to do with the Little Theatre.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay. Okay. The Little Theatre.
I can't hear you. Are you asking me how I started the Little Theatre? Because I was actively doing a lot of advertising as a copywriter. And then when we started our family, I about 30 is when I had my daughter Rohini. I had worked in advertising for quite a few years, and I was heading the copy department. And I also realized that my husband was better equipped to continue working in an office environment than myself, because he's more diplomatic than I am. And so when we started a family, in any case, physically, I was the one bringing the baby into the world, and it would probably have been easier for me to continue to look after the baby than for my husband to opt out and stay at home. So I decided that I needed to be at home to be with my babies, because I didn't trust anyone else to look after them. And I had them when I was little older. I was 30 and 31 when I produced both my kids. And I really wanted my children, so that's why I had them. And I was not going to easily give them up to be taken care of by a maid or anybody else. So I was quite happy to work from home, and I did a lot of freelance work at that stage. But as the children grew up, by the time they were about 4 and 5 years old, I realized that there wasn't very many things happening in the city. And then I met up with like-minded people, and I decided, and I had a lot of conversations with my dad, who was an amazing person to discuss things with. And he kept telling me, you need to work at a grassroots level. So that's how I started the Little Theatre, and registered it as a trust, so that we would get children who wanted to, who could pay for their workshops, because they came from wealthy backgrounds. They paid for the workshops. And then the Little Theatre paid for workshops for underprivileged children. So we started off with workshops at the Corporation School in Chetpit. And we worked with them for nearly 25 years, because we did workshops for them. We did spoken English classes. And we also, for 10 years, they did a street theatre production, which went into all the slums. And we gave 7-year scholarships to 2 boys and 2 girls, but very often we'd give an extra girl a scholarship. So there'd very often be 5 or 6 children, being incorporated into the scholarship program. And so that program lasted for about 25 years. We would pay for them through high school and university, depending, whichever college they wanted to go to. You were asking me a question.
The different initiatives of Little Theatre. Yes, the different initiatives of Little Theatre. It started with the toddler studio, and then what are the other initiatives are currently running under Little Theatre?
We started in 1991 with workshops for children between 5 and 14. We have now extended it to 5 to 15-year-olds. Okay. In 2010, I got, along with 14 other people from all over the country, 15 of us were invited to Ranga Shankara in Bangalore, and we were trained in toddler theatre. These pedagogues came from Germany. Okay, so I went there. I was very skeptical. I was extremely skeptical. I said, how on earth do you do theatre with 2 to 4-year-olds? I mean, it's practically impossible. And I went there with a lot of doubts, but I said, okay, let's go there and find out what it's all about. Since they've invited me, let's give it a shot. So I went there with a very inquiring mind, and I was a little skeptical, but I was totally blown away by the whole process. We were there for 2 weeks. We were thoroughly trained, and Germans being Germans, they made you work really hard from morning till evening. I was really exhausted. But then I came back, and our apartment had been kept closed for nearly 5 years, because we had moved into another place and so I told my husband, I said, Jaraj, I'd like to set up a toddler theatre studio, because I really want to put this program into place. So he said, let me think about it, because I told him on a Friday, and I said, look, my workers will move in on Monday. So he said, okay, let me think about it. Then on Monday morning, he said, okay, so what were you saying? I said, it's too late. My workers are already moving in. So We broke down walls, we put in wooden floors, air conditioned the whole place. And that is the studio that we have now, Cheriana, where all our workshops are run from. And we do toddler theatre workshops, we do campfire tales, we do all our rehearsals for the Christmas pantomime. And that was the year we also started the Little Festival, which is an international theatre festival for young audiences. So because we had a space where we could actually spend time, and actors are comfortable, they could sit and practice there for any length of time. So it just makes a big difference when you own your own rehearsal space.
Yes,
So that's
yes,
how it
yes.
began. And toddler theatre is essentially to help develop the imagination of the child, that is age 2 to 4. It's not for performance. And I work
Okay.
with a child and its parent, either father or mother. In some cases, I used to have father and mother coming with the child. And in many cases, father and mother would say, can we leave the child behind and only both of us come? Because they had never had theatre classes and were really enjoying the whole experience. So it was great. I love doing that. And I think it's really essential to develop the imagination, because that is something which unfortunately gets squashed by the time they get into regular schools, which don't have time for, they have such large classrooms. Teachers can't help it. You ask a question, they don't have time for you. So it's a good idea to develop their imagination and that inquiring mind separately.
Mhm.
But it'll be amazing if it can be incorporated into classrooms as well.
About this Korea trip, can you explain on that? Seoul trip.
Okay. Now I get
Is it
invited to a lot of festivals. All right.
okay?
And we have, in 2015, we've started a new program, which is hospital clowning. Because in
Okay.
2014, August, I have this tendency to do online courses, because since I'd studied science, I feel I lost out a lot by not having studied the arts courses. So whenever I get a chance, I go back to the uh, classroom and I do courses. And so I was doing this course on child psychology, because I think it's a good thing if you're working with children to do a course in child psychology. Then you get to understand a little more in detail why children behave the way they do. So I was doing this course and I got into a discussion forum, and there was this lady who was actually a hospital clown. This was from the US. And I said, okay, what are
Okay.
hospital clowns? And that's when I got to know what hospital clowns were. And
Clowning.
I thought, oh, we'd love to have something like this in our country. And then she put me on to a really fantastic trainer called Hilary Chaplin. And
Okay.
she used to be with the New York Goofs, but
Okay.
she's an independent clown and a clown trainer and an amazing actor. And I got her, to Madras to do, or rather Chennai, to train 12 actors plus me. I decided to go through. So there were 13 really, but the
Okay.
main focus were the 12 actors. I went through that training course because I just wanted to understand a little bit more about what the whole
Okay.
concept was.
Okay.
Now we are into training. So I have my master trainer is Krishna Kumar, KK, and
Yes.
Rohini, who's a medical doctor, is the first medical clown in India. And they are the two
Okay.
who have been doing training of hospital clowning.
Okay.
So they went off to Korea to train a bunch of, I think about quite a large number
20,
of actors,
50 people. Yeah. Yeah.
about 50 actors there. And so they have now completed the first level, and they'll have to go back and complete the second week of, another week of training for the same 50 people. So, but then, the virus has come in between. So we'll have to wait.
While we were in Kerala, I was in Idiki for a year. after this 2018 flood. That time to especially help with the psychosocial aspects with the kids. Expressive art therapy was used, and this clown hospital clowning thing I've seen in US and in Europe. But first time I think here it's Little Theatre who has started in India and especially from Chennai.
Yeah,
Because
I
last
think
time I
they
was
are
talking
just
when I
more
was,
better known. But I believe there have been other clown, you know,
oh,
there have been other clowns, but they,
okay, but then
yeah. But I think it's the concept. We work with actors. They
okay,
have the other groups have been training any and everyone, and I don't know how many of them have continued doing it, but we have been consistent. And so we have been
correct, okay,
consistently working for 5 years. And I think you can only make an impact in anything when you're consistent with your work. You
correct,
know,
correct.
that's it. And we are now taking the whole concept to other states. So my clowns went to Cochin, and
Oh,
they introduced clowning in Kerala for the first time. I think that was last year. They had gone, and they did it that Astamed hospital in Ernakulam.
okay,
S- Anyway, so now we are actually working with a foundation where we want to work with them and take hospital clowning into every hospital in Tamil Nadu, and then later move into every
okay,
hospital in the next state, and so on and so forth, so that eventually we have hospital clowning in every hospital in the whole country. That's the plan,
okay,
because I think it's it's important. I think it is really essential to bring arts and healthcare. So this is the next project that I have actually started at the Children's
art plan.
Government Hospital. Year before last year, we opened a creative therapy workshop studio at the Children's Government Hospital. So year before last, I came back from a holiday in Leh Ladakh. I think I get all these inspirations when I go on holiday, and I walked into the director's office at the Children's Government Hospital, and I said, doctor, it would be amazing if you could give me 1,000 square foot of space and I could set up a studio, and we can do art therapy workshops for children who are suffering from cancer, for children who are suffering from blood disorders, and who are, stuck in the hospital for long lengths of time. Because I think art and healthcare is such an amazing combination, and it will help children, anybody for that matter. And then he looked at me and said, Aysha, last 2 weeks I've also been thinking the same thing, and let's do it. I couldn't believe it. This was an amazing doctor that I just had to walk into his office and make a suggestion. He said, let's do it. I said, wow. And I'm thinking, okay, now I have put my foot into it, because it's going to cost me 35 lakhs to actually put this whole project together. I don't have a single rupee towards this project. I mean, it's the same thing with the hospital clowning training. I said yes to Hillary, and I said, yeah, fine, we'll send you, the tickets, your return tickets. And she named the price for her training, and I said yes. Suddenly I realized I had to spend about like 7 lakhs, and I had not a single rupee towards it. And so my husband said, are you kind of crazy? You don't even have 1 rupee towards this project. I said, it'll all fall into place. And I'm thinking to myself, God, please let it all fall into place. And thankfully, it all fell into place. The Park Hotel offered 2 weeks of hospitality for her. And then I did a kind of a supper theater where Hillary decided to do her one-woman show, and she agreed she wouldn't charge me further for that. I managed to sell tables to different corporates, so I was able to bring in the money, and I was able to pay. Somehow it all fell into place. So now the same thing with the studio. Again, I said, yeah, sure. And I'm thinking, oh gosh, now where do I get money to, put in wooden floors, air conditioning, a wall full of mirrors? And I didn't want to, make it any less than the kind of studio that we have. In fact, I wanted it to be a better studio than the Little Theatre studio. All right.
Mm-hmm.
And because I don't like to compromise. That's my problem in life. I don't like to compromise. So I'm a very hard nut to crack. I think my husband's had a problem living with me for 36 years because I'm so difficult in terms of not making any compromises. So I think, and he always says he needs to be given an Arjuna award for having lived with me for so many years. Secretly, I agree with him. I don't. He's probably listening to me saying that, and anyway. So then I thought, oh gosh, now what do I do? So then I rang up Mr. Santanam, the MD of Sengoben, and he was the first one who said, yes, we will give you all the mirrors. And then from the mirrors of that whole wall, then it became, they also gave me the wall, because the mirror would be too heavy to be hung on any wall. Yeah, mounted on any wall. They did that, some special wall that they built, because I had to build another wall across that corridor.
Okay.
So they have that particular wall, and it's an amazing thing. Then they also sponsored all the whiteboards and mirrors and everything which are on either side of the walls of the corridor. It's just a really beautiful space. With that, then a friend of ours, Manzoor Bhavnagarwala, and his wife Shamim, they said, oh, he's an he did engineering in IIT Madras, and his expertise is in air conditioning. So he said, Aysha, I'll help you find air conditioning sponsor. And he managed to get me Hitachi. So it just all fell into place. When I had Geeta Varghese, the interior designer, I knew her in Calcutta. That's like 40 years ago. And I knew her off and on. And then the dealer from Hitachi said, oh, there is a really good designer, and mentioned her name. So I said, oh, but I know her. So then we called her, and she said, yes, I'd love to be part of this project. And so she came in and, gave her expertise, and expertise in the sense her time. Every day she was there with me, supervising the work, all pro bono. Okay. And then we had... there was this German company that gave us the 3 windows. Came in again, sponsored. So miraculously, the entire thing I was able to fundraise in kind. And then the government anyway had the funds for electrical and civil work. So I don't know how it happened, but we have one of the most beautiful studios, 1,000 square foot studio in the government children's hospital in Egmore. It's such a beautiful space, and the joy that is on the face of the children when they walk into that studio makes it all worthwhile. It's an incredible feeling to see how much joy that space brings to these children, and that's 3/4 of the battle. And we have trained therapists who come in to do the workshops with them. So but now because of the COVID, we are not able to do anything. Yeah, so I'm waiting for the COVID to depart.
These different themes you mentioned about Arts Lab. Can you explain on that, with light and music and all those things which you
right. Okay, so we were wondering, now we are not able to run the regular workshops of Little Theatre, which we have been running for nearly 29 years. I couldn't run my festival, which would have been the 11th edition in July. So that got cancelled. We should have started the workshops for Little Theatre in August. We can't do that. And so then KK had been thinking about this whole concept for the last 2-3 years, but never really got around to doing it. And said, I have this idea. And then we, worked out a name for it, Arts Lab and whatever. We've just finished the first 1 month. They just finished it. They finished it on August 2nd. And this is bringing science to your child and letting them understand it through the arts. That's using music, dance, theater, and art. And it's quite amazing, where the first segment was on light, and the children really enjoyed themselves. And now they are waiting to register for the next segment. I don't know if they're going to be doing it on sound, or I know there are different segments. I don't want to say they're doing it on sound and then find they're doing it on something else, because nowadays my creative team and the people who are actually doing all the creative work and taking Little Theatre forward are Krishna Kumar, KK, who's my artistic director, and Dr. Rohini Rao, who's my daughter. So they are the two who are actually taking Little Theatre forward, because I personally feel it keeps the organization young. It keeps it more relevant. I would, at my age, I would still continue to think what I did the first 20 years was still relevant. It's probably not. I given my ideas, but I must admit they come up with amazing ideas, and they're keeping the organization young and taking it forward. I just get to fundraise. I come dream up new schemes. I do all the nuts and bolts, and I get to travel to a lot of festivals all over the world to see what is on offer, because I curate the festival which we do in July. So I'm not complaining. And the rest of the time I'm writing books. I write books for children, so I'm keeping myself pretty busy.
Okay. Thank you. The next segment, there are a few surprise questions. First
Okay.
question is, you visit, say, ECMO hospital, and then you come back home, you have dinner, you go to sleep. Next day morning when you wake up, this Little Theatre is handled by KK and Dr. Rohini, but you have become PM of India. So what would, okay. So now, what one area would you intervene, and what would be your intervention? You can choose one sector. This is for whole of India.
Okay. My First of all, I don't think I'd survive in the political scenario because I'm too outspoken. I'll have
Okay.
too many people coming and killing me. But if in the unlikely event I was made PM of India,
Hmm.
the area I'm really interested in is education, and using an arts-based education system,
Okay.
because I think when you bring up children through the arts, they grow up to be more self-confident. They grow up to be more sensitive. They are more concerned citizens. And so I think it's a great idea if you can infuse the education system with more music and theater and dance, because I think these are elements which are most important to a human being. Because if you think about it, while you're in the womb, when you're in your mother's womb,
Hmm.
you're hearing rhythms like the heartbeat, you're hearing rhythms of everything around you. And that is the basic rhythm in dance, in music. Okay. So it's something which is, it's very inherent in every child. And I
Hmm.
think you will be able to uh, connect with children much better if you teach them through the arts. And I
Okay.
think that's what I would introduce uh, for the whole of India.
Good. Now the next question is, I'm giving you a magical one. With that, you can change one thing immediately throughout the world. First, we
Okay.
finished India. Now, throughout the world, one thing, if you have to change, what would that be? In
I
one
would get
swish.
rid, yeah, okay, I would get rid of religion.
Okay.
I would get rid of religion because God is God. Okay, it's a universal concept. Religion was developed and
Right.
by human beings. And I feel most of the problems on planet Earth boils down to religion. And I think if you get rid of religion, you would have solved a lot of problems.
Okay. Thank you. Now, the next question is, if you consider your life as a book, of course, there are many chapters where many more people have to be impacted, many lives to be impacted. But so far, the chapters finished. If you sum them up, what would be one topmost learning of your life?
It's learning of my life.
Hmm.
Hmm. never regret anything. So don't do anything that you can regret. So whatever you do in life, think about it and do it because you want to do it. Don't have to look back and regret, oh, I shouldn't have done it. I think that's my main learning in life. Never regret anything. So move forward in life knowing that whatever decision you've made was the best decision for yourself. You don't have to blame anyone else. It was entirely your decision. Because if you have the option of blaming someone else, you'll always find a fall guy for all your shortcomings. And I don't think that's the way forward. If you need to blame anyone, blame yourself because you are the one who took that decision, nobody else.
Okay. And one more thing which I wanted to ask was about the book which you authored, The Forbidden Forest, right?
Yes.
Can you tell like what is the theme behind it, and I mean, how did this whole idea come up?
Okay, this is I hope what is going to keep me occupied for many years to come, because it's a series of 7 books.
Okay.
It's adventure series for children, and The Forbidden Forest is book 1. It's based on 2 children, Ria and Ari.
Okay.
Right, and I killed off their parents because parents are always boring to have around. They live with their grandmother, and grandmother is called Didu because Didu is grandmother for in Bengali for grandmother. That's what my children call my mother, Didu. So I guess the Didu in my book is also I've kind of immortalized my mother in the book. And they have their uncle, that's the mother's brother, whose wife also died while giving birth, so he was by himself. Like, I killed off many people before I started the book. So they have this doting uncle who lives with them, and they live in a hill station of my imagination in South India. And it's called and it kind of borders a forest called Rukuku Forest. And they go on wonderful treks into the forest, and there's lots of magic, and there's lots of fun things, and there is an interesting animal that Ria has been listening to. And then they finally go into the forest and they camp over there overnight because their uncle's best friend is the forest officer. DFO, the district forest officer. So the district forest officer, Uncle Ravi, and their uncle, Uncle Pad, are best friends. And that's how they go, have all these amazing adventures in the forest, and there is magic, and there's lots of things happening in that forest. And now I'm writing book 2. The book 2 is called The Vanishing Circle.
Vanishing Circle.
Yes.
Now, how do you see down the lane another 5 years or 10 years with this current scenario happening, performing arts, and what would be the scenario? How would the coping mechanism would be set up, or will there be any system change coming up? How are things going to be happening in the future? Because now we understand this is going to last for maybe another till March or so, and then vaccine comes say in August or so, and then another 6 to 8 months. So roughly around till 2022 or 2023, this is going to be on and off. So how performing arts will move ahead?
I think I need to now consult my crystal ball for a minute. It's anybody's guess what's going to happen. Okay, if it's going to take a long time, we just need to develop new ways to, bring the arts to children and adults. We need to find new ways of performance. It'll never be the same as, doing it in the presence of each other within a room, within an auditorium where you can breathe easily and, with air conditioning on. So it's going to be difficult, but I also feel we are all in the creative field, and we need to, think creatively and come up with new solutions to all these. I don't have a solution. Like we would never have thought of doing online workshops, which
Correct.
we're doing now. All right, and it's not for free. We charge for all the classes, and parents have been quite happy to pay for them. And the children are really enjoying and learning. It's
Hmm.
been a very positive interaction with my resource. And I think I'm just really lucky we have some amazing young resource people who understand the technology and who are extremely good at the art that they are delivering to the kids, and they are also good with children. So it's now a three-way process. Earlier, you just had to be kid friendly and be really good at what you're doing. But now, adding to that, you have to be also
Tech-
technologically sound. Otherwise, you're not going to survive. I know I can't survive. I'm not that technologically savvy. I'm
Exactly.
okay, but it's quite different.
Okay.
And I think, well, everyone has to move forward and find the new normal. But at the end of the day, as a microbiologist, this is where what I had studied about viruses and bacteria. Basically, how do you prevent that virus from entering into you? Make sure you wear your mask. Make sure you wash your hands with soap and water, because actually sanitizers can do a lot of harm to you as well. The alcohol will dry your skin. Some of the sanitizers have methanol in it, and that causes poisoning. So the best thing really is soap and water, and keep your distance.
Physical distancing.
Yeah, because even if it's airborne, it's airborne up to a point. It cannot get in through your mask if the other person is also masked. So much has been locked off by the mask, and then that little residual thing, that distance between you, is going to prevent it from sitting. So that's it. You just learn to live with it, and I think it is important not to be too anxious, because if you are full of stress and anxiety about, am I going to die? Let's face it, yeah, we're all going to die. I mean, that's the only thing we know when we are born, that you're going to eventually die. I have my 95-year-old mom living with me. I have amazing conversations with her every day. It's like the other day, she woke up and said, I'm going to die. I said, I'm going to die today. I said, Mom, it's true. You will die. We are all going to die. We'll all die one day. There is no guarantee it's going to be today. Okay? We will all die someday. But while we are still alive, we need to be cheerful and, live. There's no point in existing. That's basically, in fact, when you are really, I believe that if you are alive, you need to live. Don't exist.
Thank you. Now, if you uh, throughout your journey, there would have been definitely a lot of people who have supported you, guided you, mentored you, helped you. This is gratitude segment where you can go ahead and name them and thank them. Definitely, the list will be big, but key milestones in life you can mention. Over
Okay,
to you.
definitely my mom and dad. If they weren't there, I wouldn't have even arrived on planet Earth.
Yes.
And that's Mr. K.C. Cherian, who is no more. He passed away 15 years ago. And my rock star mom, Supriya Cherian, who has just released a music video in which she acted. She's quite an amazing lady. And the good thing about the COVID is I've had more conversations with her, because I'm having every meal with her every day, and she comes up with the most amazing anecdotes from her 95 years of living. And some of
Okay.
them are really funny stories. So I've been having a lot of fun talking to her. Then I'm very grateful to my husband, Gerard, for having actually lived with me for 36 years. He definitely deserves an Arjuna Award.
Oh,
Then I have some friends right from my childhood. One of my closest friends, we've been friends since we were 4 and 5 years old. We met in Nairobi, and every point of our life, we have kind of been together. Meaning, when I was in boarding school in Kimmins, she was at boarding school in Rishi Valley. And then when I went to London, her parents had moved to London. So I used to go and spend weekends with her. And she went to university in London. I was there in things. So then I came back to India, and she went off to the US, and we are still in touch. Her name is Rekha. Rekha and I, she's more than a sister, because she's really my closest, best friend. And I'm really very grateful to her. She's been with me every step of literally every step of my journey. And then there was another best friend at age 8 in Somalia, Gina. She and I went to school together at the American school. She went on to work for the World Bank, and she used to head World Bank for Asia and so on. Now she's retired and she lives in Colombo, Jiva Perumal Pillai. But we are still in touch, and she's a really dear friend, and I'm, very grateful for her friendship. Then my class of 1973 from Kimmins High School. So from 1968 to 73, we all lived in this boarding school together. There were 13 of us. They all know who they are. And we are on a WhatsApp group together now. So they're all in different parts of the world, but we communicate with each other. And the best part about this group of women is you can't be anybody but yourself, because we lived in boarding school from the age of 11 onwards, and you can't be anything but with these girls. And I'm extremely grateful to their friendship, because some of us don't see the same political narrative, and we have other conflicts, but we are still very, very close. So I'm very grateful to that group of women. Then when I went to study at university, my two best friends from university, a girl called Sandy and Amanda. Amanda lives in the UK and Sandy lives in Baltimore in the US. In fact, they came down for my daughter's wedding as well. And they've always been very supportive of me even when I was at university. And I'm very, very grateful to them. Even today, we still meet up whenever we get a chance. In fact, Sandy came for that award ceremony because it was in Washington, D.C. So Sandy was able to attend that dinner with me. And, it was really nice. At least I had one friend with me at the award ceremony. Then in Kimmins, my English teacher, Aruna Timmins, she now lives in Melbourne. I am extremely grateful to her, because she is one lady who believed in my writing and helped me a lot even when I was in school. So and now that I am an author and a writer, I definitely owe her a lot. Then there's Bunny Suraya, who was my first boss in O&M in Calcutta. She is the lady who taught me everything I knew in advertising, and I'm eternally grateful to her. And then I have a lot of close friends here in Chennai who have been supporting me in everything I do. There's Nisha and Thakur Bakshani. There's Shamim and Manzoor Bhavnagarwala. There's Karim and Namath, Karim Boy. There's Kamla Ramraj and Ramraj. Lot of them, they've all been there for me, and they've always been. And then the whole lot of Little Theatre parents who always come in and chip in and help me with when we put up the shows. There's, Beena and Arup, who have, even after their son finished with Little Theatre and many, many years later, they're still there manning my ticket stall for me every year at the pantomime and any other shows we put up. There are just so many people I'm really grateful to, because I've been on planet Earth for such a long time. And I'm really grateful to my 2 children and their partners, my husband, like Rohini and KK, because Rohini is married to KK, and my son Ajay and his partner Hannah. My children mean the world to me, and I'm very grateful that they are my children, and I'm really happy that they're there. And one person who I'm very grateful to is Rohini's mother-in-law. She's more like my younger sister, Padma. She and I speak to each other every day, and she's such a wonderful lady. I couldn't have asked for a better person to be my daughter's mother-in-law. She's more like a mother. In fact, she does much more for my daughter than I do, I think, at this stage. So she's a wonderful lady, and I'm extremely grateful to her.
Okay.
That's about it, I guess. The list will go on, and we'll be sitting here tomorrow, same time.
Thank you, thank you. There are few questions which I've covered. Are there any other areas which you would like to touch about Little Theatre? If you have left out any area which you want to
So, like
talk
this
about?
year, we are definitely not able to host the pantomime. It's
Mm.
cancelled. The festival was cancelled. The workshops can't happen. Uh, we just have to continue living so that we can come back next year alive and continue the programs, you know, and that's about it. But I don't know. I need to find ways to fundraise now, because I still need to fund my outreach programs at the Children's Government Hospital, that's an ongoing project. And that's see the my corporate sponsors, I'm eternally grateful to them, because they step in every year and support our work, all the corporates, TVS, Coca-Cola, uh, Chola Mandalam Finance, and Chola Mandalam Insurance. They all come in every year and help the Little Theatre, and I'm very grateful to them. And I need to, and in fact last year we also had Crayolin had come in, and they helped us, and I'm hoping that they will find some way of supporting our work, going forward. So let's see. That's about it.
Thank you so much. A lot of areas, especially with under Little Theatre, with so many initiatives, and the main idea of art, especially when it comes to hospital part or when it comes to children, being pioneers in that, உங்க நல்ல எண்ணங்கள் நிறைவேற என்னுடைய வாழ்த்துக்கள். I wish you in all the future, whichever projects you're going to be entering into, venturing into, to have a great success. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you. Thank you. Thank you for having me on your show. Thank you.
That was Mrs. Aysha Rau, and I attended one of the programs in EGMO, and since then I've been following them, all their activities, and then participating in whatever plays or drama, whichever they were conducting, theater and areas like that. And I must definitely say, there are few people who, when you see their work, it's just not uh, you know direction and just the story and things like that, where you see people have actually put their heart and soul in it, and then when you can see that and you can feel it. Little Theatre is one area like that, and as you see in the scroller, you see they're coming up with the next segment of Arts Lab and campaigns. So you can register, or in order to register, you can contact them through Gmail. It's littletheatre@gmail.com. Please do get in touch with them. Thank you.